Today I have a special guest. This is my mother. Okay, my mother is not really known for her baking skills, but we're going to try something today that I know she would love because she loves custard and pastry cream and all that stuff. So my mom today is going to make eclairs. We're going to do it with a little twist. We're going to make coffee eclairs. So we are going to get started. So you ready?
Yes.
To get to work?
Yes,
all right.
I am.
You want to grab that bowl? So in this bowl, we're going to put in 1/4 cup of sugar. When I say we, I mean you, so you know. And the flour, and that is 1/4 cup of flour. And since we're making these coffee, we're going to do some espresso powder. So that's a tablespoon of espresso powder, 2 whole eggs, and 2 egg yolks. And then a teaspoon of vanilla, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And Mom, if you could whisk that together.
Sure.
Okay, so while she is whisking this together, you're doing a fine job there, by the way.
Thank you.
But in here, we're going to put 2 cups of milk, 1/4 cup of sugar. So there was a 1/2 cup of sugar. We split it into 2 parts. So I'm going to get that going.
Wow, you're good.
I'm good. I know. This is why I'm the baker.
I guess.
I'm just going to move this around so the sugar dissolves into the milk, gets nicely mixed in there, and then we just have to wait for this to come to a boil. All right, our milk is at a boil, so I am going to take that off the heat for now. And then, Mom, what I'm going to do, I'm going to ladle some of the hot milk into here while you're whisking. So, yep, just keep it moving. So basically, I don't remember if I talked about this. Tempering the eggs. I did talk about it. You guys already know. I'm not going to tell you again. So we're going to get our pot back on the heat. And now what we're going to do, since now these eggs have come up to temperature, we're just going to pour this whole bowl into the pot.
Okay.
All right, so at this point, we're basically just going to cook it until it starts to thicken. So you can see it looks like we might have a few little kind of bits of cooked egg, but we're going to strain it, so it'll be fun. Want to keep this moving constantly, otherwise
Stick to the ball.
yeah, and the milk will start cooking into solids, which I can feel. You can see it's already turning into a custard, but it's kind of lumpy. So we're going to keep this moving. And will you stir that?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm getting a little crazy there.
Wow, it's thick fast.
Yeah, custard should only take like 2 to 3 minutes, really. Basically, as soon as heat hits the flour and it starts boiling, it's when it starts to thicken. You can see how lumpy it is, but once we push it through the strainer, we should be good. So can I see your spoon? We're going to test this. So you can see on the back of the spoon, if I run my finger through, oh, that's hot. Ooh, it tastes good. You see that line we held there?
Yes.
So that means we're good. If you feel like your custard is perfectly smooth, you don't have to strain it. So I'm doing this because we obviously have some lumps. And just to catch any little bits that you may not see. See, now it's coming out really smooth in the bowl. I think it's always worth straining it.
You know what would be delicious?
What, camera woman?
Earl Grey tea.
I saw a version for tea pastry cream.
That sounds really yummy.
So that we could try another time. All right, so I'm just kind of scraping the bottom of the sieve so we don't waste any. And you can see in the strainer how it's kind of, all the lumps are left. So we're just gonna leave that out, get all the nice smooth part. So, okay, so we have our custard done, and now this needs to cool. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna press a piece of wax paper directly to the top so it doesn't form a skin on it. You know, like when
Yeah.
you're back years ago when people made pudding, and I guess if you left it out, it would get dry
Yes,
on the top.
Yeah.
So we're gonna avoid that. So we'll press wax paper directly to the top of it, and we're gonna get this in the fridge to cool, and then we'll get our Eclairs shells started. All right, we are going to make our pastry shells now, which are called pot au choux. And basically what this is a pastry shell that puffs up in the, why are you laughing?
Pot of shoe.
It's not a pot of shoes, it's pot au choux.
Pot
It's French.
of shoe.
Anyway, we're making the shells. And so the whole point of this is a really wet mixture. So once it goes in the oven, the moisture turns into steam, and that's what puffs your shell up. So then you get a hollow shell that you can fill. So this would be used for cream puffs, eclairs, and I'm not positive. I think this is the same batter you use to make churros, but you would just fry them. So if anybody knows, put that in the comments. Otherwise, I'll research it and figure that out. But we're gonna get started. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Let's get this on. This is the only pastry dough that is cooked twice. So we're gonna cook it once on the stove, and then we're also gonna bake it in the oven. So we're gonna put in 8 tablespoons of butter. We're gonna add to that a teaspoon of sugar and half a teaspoon of salt, a cup of water. And then once it comes to a boil, we're gonna add our flour. We're gonna bring it up to a nice boil before we add our flour.
As opposed to a mean boil.
A mean boil.
You don't want a mean boil.
This is like a sissy boil.
Yeah, that is a system.
This is sissy boil. We want a full
How
boil.
do you keep your flour from getting lumps?
That is a good question. And you will see.
Okay.
Because we're just gonna put it in and stir it like crazy.
She doesn't.
So we're gonna turn the heat off for a minute while we add the flour. And then we're gonna put it in and stir, and it's gonna look gross and lumpy, and it's fine. Do you want to do this, or do you want me to do this?
You do.
Okay. Now what we want to do is dry it out, some of that moisture. So I'm gonna put the heat on kind of low, because this thing gets really hot, and we're gonna cook it, and to get some of this moisture out, because if we leave all the moisture in, the dough will not incorporate the eggs. And so at this point, we're also cooking that raw taste out of the flour. But the main point is that we're just taking a lot of the moisture out of the dough. And you know it's done. It's probably about 2 to 3 minutes. But you see how it's sort of leaving a film on the bottom of the pot?
Yeah.
So once that really starts to happen, it leaves a film on the bottom and the sides, you're basically done.
It looks like mashed potatoes.
Maybe it would taste like my dad's mashed potatoes.
Oh, wait, well,
That
we
he
just
made on
need to add some
Thanksgiving.
sweetened condensed milk.
Yeah.
So, camera woman's father made mashed potatoes one year, and instead of adding heavy cream to the potatoes, he accidentally added sweetened condensed milk. So he served it, right? Didn't
Yeah.
know, and then you guys tried it.
Yeah.
Gross. Okay, so it's leaving a pretty decent film on the bottom of the pan. We're taking it off. We're gonna leave this to sit and cool down a little bit. You can leave it for say 4 to 5 minutes, or you could take the temperature, and once it gets to 125 degrees is when we'll do the next stage, which is adding our eggs in. So we'll be back in a minute to show that. So we have our dough started. We don't have the eggs in, so we need to get those incorporated in. So we have to add the eggs one at a time, and then you don't add the next one until it's fully incorporated.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
You have 4 eggs altogether.
That is right.
How do you separate them to get one at a time?
So I'm super talented.
Oh, is that it?
See that? See that magic?
That is talent.
It's gonna look curdled and separated. Also okay, it will come together. Now it looks nice and smooth
Yeah.
and sort of elastic.
Yeah.
See how it's kind of pulling? We are going to make eclairs. And I have 2 pastry bags. I didn't have the same size tips. One is a really large open tip and one is a little bit smaller. And camera woman, what are you doing?
Camera woman is tasting the batter.
It's just,
It's not that great.
no, because there's like almost no sugar in it.
Yeah.
So right now you just ate like
Raw
raw
eggs.
flour and eggs is basically, with butter. That's what you ate. You ate buttery flour and eggs. Yeah.
It tastes like butter.
I would suggest folks at home don't taste it at this point because gross. This is not cookie dough.
No,
Anyway,
it's not.
Back to the pastry bags. So if you don't have, okay, first of all, if you don't have a tip, you could just cut your pastry bag. You don't have to have a tip. It's not a big deal. And if you don't have pastry bags, you can use a Ziploc bag, like a quart size freezer bag. I would use the freezer bags because they're thicker and they're a little stronger, but then you can just put your pastry in and cut the corner off and use a pastry bag to do that. So the easiest way to fill these is to stick your bag in a cup and then
Clever.
flip the edges down. Folding the bag down over the cup just keeps the edges clean.
See, look, I told you I could bake.
Well, you haven't baked yet.
I just put all this together.
Let's wait till it comes out. But we're just gonna do like probably about 4 inches. So I'm gonna touch the pan, start squeezing. And I'm probably a little too close to the side there, but whatever. And then I'm gonna stop squeezing and pull back up. It looks kind of like a finger right now.
Yes, it does.
So I'm gonna do one more. And you wanna leave enough room in between these so that, because they're gonna puff and grow. So you might wanna keep your tip a little closer to the sheet pan instead of like, so if you want it a little thicker than that, what you can do is squeeze, but don't pull yet. Like
Oh,
slowly
okay.
go so you're building up some
I
width
got
on
it.
that.
I got you.
I like your up and down motion.
That
What
does
is
make
that?
it look like a caterpillar.
Yours are like decorative.
That's right. See, Kim, I can bake.
Are you out to prove everyone in America wrong about your baking skills?
No,
Or just Kim and Mark?
Just Kim and Mark. My 2 kids who think they're professional bakers, and they're not.
I'm also her kid. But no, I'm a
But she
professional.
is a professional baker. Yours are a little prettier than mine, I'll have to admit that.
This one looks like it's about to come out of its cocoon. So let's say, like you see how there's a tip there,
Yeah.
right? So I'm gonna get some water and then I'm just gonna put my finger in it and just sort of just pat that little tip down.
And why do you put your finger in water?
It'll stick to your finger if you don't
Oh,
have
okay.
water on it. So we are gonna get these in the oven. They're gonna bake about 25 minutes on 425 degrees. We'll check them at like 20 minutes. And then they just need to be kind of uniformly golden brown. We're gonna get these in the oven and we'll check them when they're done.
Okay.
Okay. All right, our shells are out of the oven. They look pretty good. So there's steam in these now and we can't let the steam sit in there. Otherwise they'll get all soft because now you see how they're like got a nice kind of
Yeah.
crisp to them. So we don't want to lose that. So what you're gonna do,
Okay.
you're gonna pick each one up and then you're just gonna, just kind of, and it doesn't matter wherever you see a spot, just cut a little hole in it and then set it down upside down or wherever so that hole is, but so that that steam can escape.
Oh, okay.
And then they'll dry out on the inside.
Got it.
All right, so we're gonna finish doing this and then when these cool off, we are going to fill them with our coffee pastry cream, dip them in a chocolate ganache, and then we will eat. We are back. Our shells are nice and cool, and we have our pastry filling put in bags and ready to go. And we're gonna make a chocolate glaze. So I have a cup of heavy cream that's really hot, and I'm gonna pour it over a cup and a third of dark chocolate. And we're gonna get that melting. And basically we're just making a ganache, which a ganache is just chocolate and some kind of liquid. I forgot to turn my microphone on, so if you did not hear that part, I'm really sorry. Okay, how about while I'm doing this, I could get you started filling. So you can take your bag and then you're gonna puncture in one end. Okay, and then you're gonna fill from your other end, and then you should be able to feel when it starts getting kind of heavy. So with this ganache, I'm basically just gonna stir it till it's smooth and comes together. You want to maybe get this twisted a little bit more so it doesn't come out and hit you in the face. There you go. And if they're smaller, you could probably do it all from one end. But these bigger ones, you may want to. Sheesh. Or just do it all from one end. Whatever you want, Mom.
Okay.
You're the master of your eclair.
That's right.
How's it going over there?
Just fine.
Nice. Don't look at me all sarcastic. I was just being friendly. Sheesh. This is what happens when you have your mother on your show. I was not picking on you, Mother.
I didn't think you were picking on me.
You're about to pick on you how you're holding that pastry bag. You need help?
No, I'm fine.
I'm going to start dipping the ones that are done. Now you can fill them how we're filling them, or you could cut them in half and fill them. But it's a little harder to dip them in the ganache. Look at that. Yum. I don't think the pastry cream is going to get as thick as I would like it. All right, we're going to finish filling these, glazing them, and we will be back to taste them. We have our eclairs filled and dipped. Now we did end up with a few extra shells that we didn't have enough pastry cream for. You could always fill them with whipped cream and then just dip them in the chocolate. Plus, that recipe, way too much glaze for the amount of eclairs that we did. So definitely could half that. I will say our pastry cream did not seem to set up. It's very runny, but it tastes very good. So we're gonna try these now. Excuse us if we end up wearing half of it. Going in.
It was that person that whisked all that cream.
Oh, the whisker.
The whisker.
Oh, I need another bite.
Very good.
Okay, it's not necessarily the most appealing color, but it's coffee. Yeah, it's not too sweet, right?
It's perfect.
And the shell is nice and dried out. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I could use a tiny bit more coffee taste, I think. But otherwise, I think it's really good. Now, in the original recipe, they also put espresso powder in the glaze. We didn't do that because we just wanted kind of a nice light coffee taste. But I think now tasting it, I'd like a little bit more coffee.
Yeah, maybe a little
but
bit.
It's really nice.
But it's very...
Thank you for joining. Thanks, Mama, for being here. And you learned how to make eclairs. It wasn't nearly as hard as you thought, right?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. Gonna finish this eclair.